If there's a balance, I'll pay you double." The manager mocked the black farmer until he realized it was the bank's CEO. It was a normal morning at the most luxurious branch in downtown Dallas. Marble floors polished like mirrors, streaks of white light running along the edges of tall glass panels, the scent of expensive perfume mingling with fresh-brewed coffee-tailored suits, shuttling back and forth shoes so shiny you could see yourself in them. Everything ticked smoothly like a fully wound Swiss watch until a 68-year-old farmer pushed the doors open. A frayed straw hat, sun-faded flannel dusty boots, and on his wrist a scratched plastic watch. His name was Gerald Jerry Allen Sr., a black cattleman from the Texas Panhandle. He walked straight to the counter, bowed slightly, his voice low and steady, each word dropping like firm pebbles. "Good morning. I need to transfer $15 million from my personal account." Before 2 p.m., silence fell thin-sharp like the AC had died in the Texas heat. Pen clicks, chair scrapes, keyboard strokes, all strangled midair. Glances flicked. Lips curled, smiles half hidden behind latte lids. From the glass office at the end of the hall, Leonard Leo Campbell, the 35-year-old branch manager, emerged Italian, suit, smugly pressed wine-red silk, tie shoes gleaming. He stood at an angle chin-high, a smile that never touched his eyes, hands clasped like a prosecutor about to speak. "If you really have that balance, I'll pay you double," he said, each word deliberate, like a ruler striking the desk. Laughter rolled through the lobby like billiard balls colliding clear cold. Carla Reed, the receptionist, covered her mouth to hide a giggle. Sandra Blake, the supervisor, exchanged a look with Mark Davis, the guard, signaling him to stay close. Robert Silver, the car dealer, shook his head like he'd seen it all. Patricia Montgomery adjusted her perfect pearl necklace. Dr. August Myers exhaled like a man cut in line at the first-class lounge. Only Anna Paulson, the young teller, gripped her pen tight, eyes fixed on the man in the straw hat. Jerry removed his hat. Salt and pepper hair, sun-browned forehead, eyes calm like dawn on the plains after a thin night's rain. "My name is Gerald Allen," he said, not loud, not trembling. "Transfer $15 million. Today, before 2. His periods landed like heavy stones on gravel, immovable. "Oh, of course," Leo replied, his politeness snapping on and off like a switch, his smile razor-thin. "But for such a large transaction, we have procedures. 17 forms, 5 years of tax returns, a notarized source of funds statement. And for security, any transfer over $10 million requires 48 hours. In a few sentences, he built a paper wall, as if paper could stand taller than a man, as if words could outweigh dignity. "Last week, Jerry answered, I transferred $20 million from this very account. No circus." His tone cut clean. "If he has that history," Anna said softly but firmly, eyes bright with what was right, "we can be flexible under current regulations. Just a quick check." Anna Leo snapped, smile gone eyes cold as glass mind your work. Mark shifted a half-step forward, his shadow stretching thick across the marble floor as if shade itself could shrink another man. Microaggressions took shape, the extra half-step of distance, the condescending tone of a schoolteacher, the raised eyebrow stamped like doubt across someone's forehead. They waited for the farmer to flare up, to stumble, to bow out gracefully through the door he came in. But he didn't. He walked to the VIP area, sat down, crossed his legs like a man entitled to that very chair. "I'll wait for the regional director," he said. "I've got time." Some snickered, but his calm, untainted by arrogance, silenced the room more than any shout. The clock ticked. The minute hand slid toward 2:00 p.m., the wire cutoff looming like an invisible bronze bell, each tick a countdown. Sandra slapped a thick stack of forms onto the counter, the paper thud like a verdict. Carla said loud enough for accidental ears. Might be a slow one today because of procedures. Robert whispered to Patricia, "No saving some folks out of place." Patricia's hung like a trap. Those who don't know their place. Dr. Myers stayed quiet, eyes sliding away as if silence was neutrality. Jerry looked around, not blaming, not arguing. His eyes traced the currency board on the wall, the glossy posters promising respect for every customer, the big mirror reflecting the shiny lobby, then down to his dusty boots. He nodded, once simple, like agreeing with his own breath. The silence grew thick, the kind someone once said has its own sound, the sound of prejudice hearing itself. 1:07 p.m. 1:19. 1:33. Time flowed through the lobby like a hushed river. Whispers, paper rustles, nails tapping on phones, a grating background score. Anna glanced at the clock, then at Leo, then at Jerry. She opened the system, searched his name, watched the numbers flash on screen like streetlights at dusk, transfer history limits, internal notes. She inhaled. Last week, 20 million. She'd been right. She knew she'd been right. And she knew they had just tried to twist truth into falsehood with empty paper. At 1:41 p.m., Leo's phone buzzed. Rick Carter, Regional Director. He straightened his tie, pinched the bridge of his nose, scanned the lobby, then answered, "Good afternoon, boss. There's a farmer here trying to—" He didn't finish. Silence from the other end poured heavy. Long enough to hear the AC again. Long enough for Carla's laughter to vanish. Long enough for Patricia to set down her purse and hold her pearls still. When Rick finally spoke, his voice was steel, sharp, unyielding. Put him on the line now. And treat him with maximum respect. That's an order. In that instant, it wasn't just the phone carrying the command. The air itself seemed to transmit it, an invisible decree ordering everyone to freeze, to look again, to count their judgments. Leo turned toward Jerry, face white as the blank form in his hand, and offered the phone with both hands, his voice scraping out, "Mr. Allen, the regional director, would like to speak with you." And with that forced sentence of respect, the lobby's temperature changed. Life in Texas is told by the wind. It comes early, blows hard, and lingers long. At 17, Jerry hauled feed sacks by day, studied for his GED at night, counted cash at the hay counter like counting grain. When his buddies chuckled and bought radios to listen to football, he walked to the market, held the same cash, and bought 10 shares of Exxon. While others upgraded to new pickups, he pinched every paycheck and poured it into the S&P 500 US, treasuries into things not flashy but enduring like the land itself. He taught himself accounting from second-hand books, learned to read reports, instead of rumors, learned to stand tall when saying no. Learned to stay silent when he was right, and the whole world said he was wrong. At 35, he bid on a 200-acre ranch, thin grass, salty soil, a creaking wooden house, a water trough split in 2 droughts, bitter as unsweetened coffee rains, muddy as clawed-up earth. People laughed, saying, "You bought that land just to hear the wind howl," but he drilled wells, changed seed, rebuilt fences, measured grass growth, logged Sundays and rain days, studied the sky as if it were the biggest notebook. Up at 5, asleep at 11, and between those hours was work study and small choices that added up to a life that was anything but small. By 45, he'd been a millionaire many times, but the straw hat didn't change. The dusty boots weren't new. The handshake stayed slow and firm. He understood money was just a tool. The one holding it decided whether to build or destroy. Then he noticed a regional bank faltering its front door, greeting elders with smiles as thin as posters. Farmers sent to the credit union like misdelivered packages. Small shopkeepers told to book an appointment to be heard. He invested. 30%. A few years later, 43. 23 years of accumulation. 23 years of reading shareholder minutes, 23 years without stepping on stage but steering the ship with wind, the kind that comes early, blows hard, and stays long. In those 23 years, he kept 847 complaint letters. Some were written by elders' shaky handwriting, blurred ink saying they stood 17 minutes without a hello. Some by farmers' blocky script clipped lines saying they were asked, "Do you have an appointment before? What do you need?" Some by cleaning women saying they were called "that lady" and redirected to another counter more suitable. Some listed names, dates, hours, even how expensive perfume drowned the smell of their sweat. He read them all, folded them, placed them in an unlocked drawer. He never forgot. On some nights, he sat on the wooden porch watching fireflies blink over the pasture, listening to the wind stir the birches, and told his wife, Mary, "Tomorrow I'll go see," she asked as the owner. He shook his head, as a regular customer. Because truth shows its face only when the spotlight isn't on, because true culture reveals itself only when no one knows who's watching. This morning in Dallas, Leo built a wall of paper. 17 forms, 5 years of taxes, notarized funds a security demand for 48 hours. Acronyms, BSA, AML, HOTCIP, OFAC, recited slow-like spells. Every spell can be used properly or wielded to shove people out the door. Carla joked, maybe he added an extra zero. Sandra chimed, better book a private banking appointment. Robert muttered, folks like that should go to a credit union. Patricia eyed his dusty boots as proof of poverty. Dr. Myers rubbed his chin eyes, skittering away, as if silence were neutral virtue. Their skin color and appearance stacked into an invisible wall, built by no one, walked around by everyone. Last week he transferred $20 million from this very account. Anna reminded her finger, trembling on the keyboard. The system records clear the internal notes, unmistakable today's cutoff still, 2:80 p.m., plenty of time if processed now. Anna Leo bit out each word. I said, mind your business. Voice like a latch snapping shut, eyes sliding past her as if she were an object, not a person. Jerry said nothing more. He sat in the VIP chair, crossed his legs, nodded like a man nodding at the coming rain. I'll wait for the regional director. One sentence, one seat, one claim to belonging set down as lightly as a pebble. But that pebble tilted the water's surface, its ripples reminding that power can move quietly and still be felt. 1:17 p.m., 1:29, 1:41. While someone smirked, someone texted, someone drummed nails on marble. Leo's phone buzzed, the screen lit up. Rick Carter, Regional Director. Leo scanned the room, adjusted his tie, picked up. Hello, boss. There's a farmer here trying to silence poured from the other end. Long enough to hear the AC hum. Long enough for Carla to stop laughing. Long enough for Patricia to still her purse. When Rick's voice returned, it was different. Put him on the line right now, and treat him with maximum respect. That's an order. The room swallowed a breath. Leo held the phone with both hands, as if it weighed more than it should, then stepped toward Jerry, Mr. Allen. Jerry lifted the phone to his ear. His voice was even smooth as a windless pond. Yes, Rick, I'm sitting right here. No, don't come. Let me handle this on the spot. He set the phone down, opened a scuffed tablet, tapped once, twice. The screen lit documents sliding beneath his fingers, digital signing authorities, shareholder registers, audit reports, regulator filings. Seals glowing without ink, signatures appearing without shouts. Then he said the line the entire room would remember. I am Gerald Allen Sr. I am the majority shareholder of this bank. 43%. 23 years of accumulation. And I have received 847 letters of complaint about how we treat people who don't fit your gaze. The silence that followed weighed like a stone, pressed on the chest of someone gasping for air. Leo braced himself on the counter as if the marble had suddenly turned to water. searching for footing where none felt solid. Carla let out the faintest oh so soft she barely heard it herself. Sandra went pale as paper. Robert swallowed hard, his throat dry as if he had swallowed a fistful of sand. Patricia parted her lips, then closed them, her hand gripping her pearls as though to steady herself. Dr. Myers cleared his throat not to speak but to stop it from trembling. Anna stood tall, both hands on the counter, tears pooling, but not falling because she felt something rare and precious, the right thing finally being called by its true name. Jerry turned to Anna. "Thank you for speaking when others stayed silent," he said, his voice neither raised nor hushed, yet carrying clearly through the lobby. Then he looked at Leo. "Your role ends here, effective now, not for revenge, for example. To Sandra, you step down. For endorsing humiliation." Finally, he turned back to Anna Paulson from Today Regional Director. No one clapped, no one objected. Some judgments need no sound to be understood. Some standards once spoken cease to be options and become pillars. Mr. Allen Roberts stammered, I only—" "You weren't disrespecting me," Jerry answered. "You disrespected yourself. Don't let a stranger's boots decide the tone of your greeting." Sir Patricia whispered, pearls trembling on her collarbone lately. "I haven't been myself." "Look in the mirror," he told her. "Ask who you want to be." Mark muttered, "I was just following orders." "There are orders," Jerry replied, "not worth following. And there are times when silence itself is complicity." He motioned for Sandra to hand over her card for Leo to remove his badge. His hands shook so badly even the tiny pin felt like lead. Leo opened, his mouth closed. It opened again, but only a long breath escaped. Carla was crying, not from pity, but from fear of a door shutting in her face. Anna met Leo's eyes, not with gloating, not with contempt, just looking the way one looks at someone who's forgotten where the shore is. 1:59 p.m. 2:00 p.m. The digital clock flipped like a starter's pistol. Anna was already at the screen. Fields lit up checkmarks appearing like streetlights at dusk. The wire cleared just at cutoff. No applause, but in many minds came the sound of a knot finally snapping free, the dry, satisfying sound of something undone the right way. Jerry leaned his elbow lightly on the counter, speaking for all to hear. "Starting tomorrow, the culture here changes. Process will still be process, but not to trample dignity, not to erect a gate of no before the vulnerable. We keep security to protect the system, but the purpose of the system is to serve people. Nothing more, nothing less." The words drove like a nail straight into the building's pillar. The posters on the wall reading, "Respect every customer," suddenly carried weight, no longer glossy paper for decoration, but living copies of something just reaffirmed. In the corner, the great mirror reflected a lobby that looked the same, but wasn't a VIP chair just claimed without asking a phone, just passed like an order, a phrase, not revenge. Standard floating like a vow, destined to echo. Leo stood frozen, as if waiting for a gavel to drop so he could collapse. But no gavel came. Only emptiness felt when a seat turns out to be borrowed, when one's own voice suddenly sounds foreign to one's ears. Sandra sank into a chair, hands twisted together, lips mouthing, "I have 3 kids," like a desperate charm. Carla shuffled papers with trembling fingers. Robert stared at his shoes. Patricia turned away. Dr. Myers closed his briefcase, suddenly aware of how heavy his credentials felt. Jerry nodded, as if laying the first brick of a new wall, then spoke softly but with edge. "Tomorrow we begin again. Here. Person by person. Task by task. Greeting by greeting." That line closed the morning and opened the days ahead, because every great change begins with a small thing everyone once thought could be overlooked. The chaos didn't come at once. It came like rain seen from afar, the clouds darkening the wind, shifting the smell of damp earth rising, then breaking loose. That very afternoon, Carla wrote a letter asking for a chance to make things right, her cursive looping like fresh grass. Sandra shut herself in a small room, called her husband, whispered, "Honey, I messed up," and sobbed. Leo sat in his car, hands clamped on the steering wheel until his knuckles blanched. Robert opened his laptop, scrolled through his dealership's contracts with the bank, and wondered how many clients would now reconsider. Patricia texted her friend's group something terrible happened, her fingers still clutching her pearls as if clinging to a class status slipping away. Dr. Myers stood alone in the parking lot, staring up at the vast Texas sky so wide it made even a man with degrees feel small. The next morning, a small bronze plaque hung by the revolving door. The bronze was new, the letters deeply etched, the lobby lights catching on them, so they gleamed like an oath. Everyone is welcome here regardless of appearance, job, or social status. Not decoration, not PR, a commitment. And commitments are paid for in behavior. In the first week, Anna gathered the team, reviewed every BSA, SHE-AML, CEP, OFAC regulation, making clear what was mandatory, what was flexible, what was meant for protection, what was forbidden as exclusion. She introduced behavioral metrics into evaluations, whether greetings came first, whether water was offered, whether seats were offered, whether tone demeaned the customer, whether distance respected space, whether eyes met eyes. First violation retraining. Second warning. Third removal. Not to hunt scalps. To remind them culture isn't a slogan, it's warm discipline repeated daily. In the second week, Financial Literacy Night lit up the third-floor conference room every Thursday evening. Farmhands, truck drivers, small merchants, new immigrants, anyone could come in. On the whiteboard, large words read, "You have the right to understand your own money." Microcredit was redesigned fair interest. Clear process. No turning those in need into those who beg. Signs had large print braille, clear arrows. Water was always available, chairs, always enough greetings, always before. What do you need? In the first month, complaints dropped 18%. In the second, 27%. In the third, 35%. Numbers don't love or hate, they just stand like milestones saying decency surprisingly works. Fern, once the flustered intern who giggled now, sat at the CSR desk. She told new hires respect isn't something to trade. It's who you are, no frame, no badge, yet posted everywhere. And Leo. The first nights were noisy silences, self-reproach's own words echoing back as if from a stranger's mouth, doors slamming, ceiling fans whirring. One afternoon, he drove out to the ranch. Endless pasture, the smell of dry hay wind snapping his collar like a reminder of a space larger than any manager's chair. He stood at the wooden fence. "I'm not here for a job. I'm here to say I learned the hardest way." Jerry looked at him for a long time. "I forgive you," he said. "The rest is for you to forgive yourself." Turn the lesson into work. Later, Leo sold warranties at a small appliance store. The pay was modest. The smile was real. He greeted dusty boots like VIP clients, as if every hello was a VIP chair inviting dignity to sit. He began to grasp a new equation: respect is labor, not a prop. Sandra tried a few banks, none hired her. Eventually, she worked as a teller at a small credit union. Nearly a year later, she finally understood humility isn't humiliation. It's freedom from the habit of standing above others. Robert and Patricia paid in reputation, fewer seats at dinner tables, fewer names in chat groups, fewer invitations. They relearned handshakes that didn't glance at a wristwatch. Dr. Myers opened free clinic hours every Tuesday afternoon. He said degrees make us skilled, but humility makes us wise, and smiled as if he had just prescribed himself a medicine. 6 months passed. The bronze plaque by the door had darkened half a shade from sun, wind, and fingertips. But the words shone brighter in the eyes that read them. "Hello" arrived in the right place. "How can I help you" came before every other question. Smiles were no longer just muscles, but signals of a new reflex, putting people before process. Anna walked through the lobby with no glass office. She stopped to ask an elderly man if he needed shade from the sun, handed a cup of water to a woman waiting, smiled at a young man applying for his first small loan. She knew this wasn't a miracle. It was warm discipline, repeated every day. A year later, a thick golden Dallas morning. Jerry walked through the bank doors the same way as before: old straw hat, faded flannel, dusty boots. The new staff didn't know who he was. Still, they smiled. Good morning, still offered water, still asked, "How can I help you?" No one guessed the size of his wallet by his boots. No one measured his worth by flannel. A young teller with her hair tied high extended her hand toward a chair. "Would you like to make a transfer deposit, or do you have a question about your account, sir?" Her voice was clear, her eyes steady her distance just right. Small details, but ones this lobby had lacked a year ago. He passed the bronze plaque by the door, now scratched in places, and smiled. The words still gleamed. Everyone is welcome here, regardless of appearance, job, or social status. A short line, a long vow. Anna stepped out from the work area. No more glass walls, only eye-level presence. "Good morning, Mr. Jerry," she said. "I saved you a chair, but I don't think you'll need it today." He chuckled. When every chair belongs to the customer, the VIP seat loses its meaning. People nearby didn't need to understand every word they felt. Some sentences are maps. You hear them and you know where to walk. He sat down, spoke with the young teller about a wire transfer, heard her ask the right and necessary questions, watched her take careful notes, saw her double-check one detail with a supervisor to be sure syntax was exact. Everything moved as it should. No noise, no spectacle, no one brandishing stacks of paper like a wall anymore, no one using policy as a blade to mask contempt, no one's gaze dropping in condescension. The things that didn't happen were hardest to describe, yet sometimes absence itself is the strongest proof of change. When he gave his name, no one panicked. No one rushed to change their tone. No one sprinted off to report. They simply smiled, the quiet pride of knowing culture had sunk deep into reflex. Anna walked him through the lobby, pointing to new posters, to charts showing complaints dropping month by month, to photos from financial literacy nights with brown, black, red, and white faces all laughing together. "We still stumble," she admitted. "But every stumble is a chance to rise more rightly." Jerry nodded. He knew anything worthwhile limps before it runs. Evening fell. He returned to the ranch. The porch wood glowed honey-warm. Pastures stretched out like a green quilt embroidered with silver thread stars. Mary brought 2 cups of black coffee. "Worth it?" she asked, warm hand resting on his sun-browned arm. "More than worth it," he smiled, the quiet smile of someone who knows the seed has sprouted and is climbing. You change a bank by changing people one by one. And sometimes it only takes one person brave enough to say the simplest truth: the emperor has no clothes. Somewhere a calf bawled, as if marking its presence. Somewhere a windmill creaked. Right here, 2 elders sat in stillness, listening to night grow large to wind, blowing from weary years, into lighter ones, to hearts eased like a coffee cup half empty, but still fragrant. That night, Jerry opened the old drawer where he had kept 847 complaint letters. He pulled out a random stack, reread a few, saw the ink smudged at the corners with age. He picked up a pen and added one small line at the end: answered. Not answered with emails, not with template apologies. Answered with treatment. Answered with greetings. Answered with glasses of water at the right moment. Answered by building bridges of data instead of walls of paper. Answered with something that would repeat tomorrow. And if you, the one reading this, have ever stood in a lobby where they measured you by flannel or boots, if you've ever been asked, do you have an appointment before? What do you need if you've ever heard laughter roll across a lobby like billiard balls? Remember this, don't use appearances to measure dignity. Don't use procedure to cover contempt. Don't let dusty boots decide the tone of your own voice. If this story touched you, leave a like, write a comment on what you would do in that situation, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe, so you don't miss the next stories. Stories where respect isn't a slogan but the way we live every day. Where money is only a tool and true wealth is lifting others higher than the dust on their boots.